Now we move on to our second special guest. He's the House Minority Leader. This is Representative Reginald Boulding. Please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos. And I'm really excited to be here tonight. So Carlos told me I had 10 minutes, and for an elected official, that is just not enough time. So I'll probably take between 20 to 25. But no, I wanted to first come and just say thank you for being here. You know, having a conversation that can be uncomfortable for many is one in which people don't often move into that space. They tend to go with crowds and talk to people who they think alike or say the things collectively that they could all agree on. But actually increasing and having debate and conversation is a great thing, and it's something that I always want to lean into. And I want to just pause and tell you a little bit about my story first before I tell you a little bit about why that's important. For me, I was born and raised in the Midwest in a small town in Ohio, Akron, Ohio. And there, I was raised by a hardworking mother. And she raised myself and my two brothers. And for her, I really had the opportunity to see, you know, what hard work, perseverance, what that looked like. And in our communities, one of the things that I often saw was that there wasn't a lot of opportunity for a lot of people. And no matter how hard people worked, there still was this revolving door of, you know, how difficult it was for people to get by. There literally was this, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, even when people were working very hard and rolling up their sleeves. And for me, as a young kid, young Reggie, I wanted to always become a lawyer. And I always tell this story. I wanted to become a lawyer. So I would stay up and I would watch this TV show called The Practice. Raise your hand if you ever heard of that TV show. The Practice, Law and Order. And I would grill the witnesses literally like on the stand while I'm in my room. And literally like this like took me to like this different place in my mind where I would just, you know, think about what I would do if I ever had that opportunity. But like many kids in Ohio at that time, and I would say arguably many kids here in Arizona, if you don't know what questions to ask, you may not know how to actually get there. I wanted to be a lawyer, but I had no clue how to become a lawyer. I actually thought that you could go from high school to law school because I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know that you had to take the LSAT. I didn't know that you had to get a 4-year degree. Just simply no one who I knew had that experience. So I was incredibly blessed to have an excellent mentor. Again, my mother, a teacher, who really helped navigate me through that path. And that led me ultimately to going to the University of Cincinnati State, rooted in Ohio. And there got an amazing opportunity to intern at one of the top law firms down there. And it was that experience that gave me my first experience of ever meeting attorneys and lawyers. And for me, it provided an opportunity for me to see that, you know, I'm simply just like anyone else, given the opportunity I can execute. And from there, that experience inspired me, which ultimately enabled me to learn the process, took the LSAT, did very well, and earned a full-ride law school scholarship to one of the top schools in our country. And it was at that time that I really stepped back and said, you know, why is this not a revolving story that we see for a lot of people? You know, why is it that I was given this opportunity, worked extremely hard, but others who may have had that same experience weren't? And that actually forced me to decide to turn down that full-ride law school scholarship and move out to Phoenix, Arizona to become a special education teacher in South Phoenix. And it was because of that experience there that I really wanted to make sure that all kids, they had the ability to think about what questions and get those questions answered that they needed to, that they didn't have to wait till they went into college to get those questions answered. So, at the University of Cincinnati, then moving here to Arizona to become a special education teacher, one of the things that we often see is that there is a number of conversations happening at the state capitol, particularly around education and around a lot of other issues. But there's simply many times a disconnect from the lawmakers who are down at the state capitol and the issues that everyday people are facing. And for me, as a teacher, I've seen a significant disconnect than what people every single day are talking about at home and what lawmakers are picking up the microphone and screaming about. And that passion and that determination really inspired me to run for office. And education was my issue. Education was something that made me decide to say, I want to get involved politically. And for many other people, that issue may be healthcare, it may be criminal justice, it may be election integrity. But whatever your issue is, what we know and what we're seeing right now is you have to have the ability to get in the game. And what I'm seeing is that many times, and what we're seeing in election policy right now, is there is an effort to take people out of the game. I often use this saying that if you don't have a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu. And when I am seeing pieces of legislation that make it more difficult for people to have a seat at the table, I step back and I ask why. And typically, those individuals who don't have a seat at the table, they're on the menu because there's a policy that is driven that may not allow them to have an opportunity to seek that American dream, for them to seek that Arizona dream, for them to get that question asked that they may have always wanted to get asked. And at the legislature, what we saw and what we've consistently saw and seen around this country is that there have been a number of bills that primarily have made it more difficult for people to vote. Here in Arizona, we've seen our vote by mail system significantly increase. Now 80% of all voters choose to vote by mail. That's a great thing because what we're doing is we're providing people with an opportunity to vet candidates, an opportunity to make sure that they're able to cast their ballot in a secure way. And that's something that we should be proud of. We should be proud that we're giving people an opportunity to vote because some people may have access to transportation to make it to their nearest polling location. Some people may be able to take off work and stand in line if the lines happen to be long. And some people may not. So we know vote by mail is one of many ways. And quite frankly, at the legislature this year, we saw some direct attacks at that vote by mail system. We saw some bills that actually would make voters have to get their envelopes notarized in order for their ballots to count. I don't know about you, but for many people, if you don't have a notary around, if you don't know a notary, and in some places notaries may cost money, I would consider that a poll tax to actually make someone have to pay to have their ballot notarized in order for them to participate in democracy. We also saw other bills at the legislature that would create a system in which state lawmakers, not the voters, certify elections. State lawmakers would decide where electoral votes should go. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You want to make sure that voters have the ability to decide where those electoral votes are going to go. We saw other bills at the legislature that would literally remove people from the permanent early voting list. In fact, many of us who vote by mail, and I would venture to say 95% of us in here probably get our ballot in the mail. And when we signed up, it had the name Permanent Early Voting List. And we had a bill that would take away the permanent because we've seen an increase in the amount of individuals who chose to participate, who chose to have a seat at the table. Now, for me, And for a lot of people that I talk to, they believe that lawmakers may be a little arrogant. And I can tell you this, I would venture to say that is probably arrogance. And I'm going to talk about why it's arrogant. Instead of lawmakers choosing to listen to voters and change their message, lawmakers decided, how can we change the voters instead of changing the message? I believe in this simple concept. Lawmakers shouldn't pick their voters. Voters should pick their lawmakers. And consistently what we have seen at the state legislature is bills that actually make that not the reality. So no matter what side of the aisle you're on, you want to have a seat at the table. You want to participate. And one man's voter integrity is another man's voter suppression. And we're going to have that conversation. I'm sure you'll hear a lot about it today during the panel. But at a simple essence, every eligible voter in the state of Arizona should have access to have their voices heard. It's up to lawmakers to decide. It's lawmakers and as candidates' issues that they need to make sure they're connecting and speaking to the community. But what they can't do is tell the community that if you don't like me, I'm going to remove you from the system. So I simply am here to say I am looking forward to this conversation, looking forward to any questions that you may have, because I really believe that in order for us to get to a place of not demonization, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent, which we've actually got to a place where people don't even want to be in the same room with each other once they find out what party they're in. If we ever want to get to a place of civility, a place of debate, a place of moving forward, we have to have tough conversations like we're going to have tonight. So thank you so much, Carlos. Thank you so much, Arizona Talks, and looking forward to the conversation.